Richard Cottingham was born in the Bronx back in 1946. When he was only 10, he became fascinated with bondage porn and tends to use that as an excuse for things he did later. He worked as a computer operator for most of his adult life until he was arrested in 1980. Ironically, while working at Blue Cross, he worked with Rodney Alcala, who was a fugitive child molester and serial killer who was going at the time by the name of John Berger. He had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, after which his wife would file for divorce for abandonment. His divorce became final after he was convicted in 1981 for a number of offenses. By 1980, he already had a criminal record, though, mostly for less significant offenses: drunk driving, shoplifting, and robbery. Police who dealt with him did not catch on to who he was or what he was up to, and they were not even aware there was a serial killer operating in their midst. He had a few escapes from the law when prostitutes that he allegedly abused, confined, and harmed never appeared for trials, and the charges would be dropped. When, on May 22, 1980, he picked up 18-year-old sex worker Leslie Ann Odell, it would be the beginning of the end for him and the beginning of a series of revelations and discoveries for the people of New York and for New Jersey. It was early in the morning when he picked Leslie up. She had been soliciting at Lexington and 25th in Manhattan. They went to the Hasbrook Heights Quality Inn. Cottingham offered Leslie a massage, and while he was straddling her, pulled out a knife and handcuffed her wrists. He began torturing her then. She would say disturbingly, quote, "You have to take it. The other girls did. You have to too. You have to be punished." End quote. She wasn't going to just take it, though. Cunningham had a fake gun under the bed. He had threatened her with it, and she believed it was real. So she reached for it, got it, and tried to shoot Cottingham with it. It did not fire, obviously, and Cottingham attacked her with the knife. She screamed and brought hotel staff running into the room. They called police, and Cottingham was arrested in the hallway at gunpoint. With him, he had handcuffs, a leather gag, slave collars, a switchblade, fake pistols, and a pile of prescription pills, including secobarbital and amobarbital. He was charged with a host of very serious offenses, and Leslie survived. Not only did she survive, but she was the reason that a serial killer was put behind bars, unable to kill anybody else. Later, police would find a locked room in the basement apartment of the house Cottingham lived in. Locked rooms inside usually are not a good sign in a police investigation. They found all manner of personal effects there, and they were able to trace a lot of them to his victims. They found more in the trunk of his car. His days of freedom were over. Cottingham would become known as the Times Square Killer, the Torso Killer, and the New York Ripper. But just to be sure, there was a trial for what he did to Leslie and 3 other women: Susan Geiger, Karen Schilt, and Pamela Weisenfeld. He would be convicted in 3 of the 4 cases. They all testified to the horrors Cottingham subjected them to. Why he did not kill these women as he did many others is unknown, but other than Leslie, he left most abandoned and badly injured. Since his incarceration, Cottingham claims to have killed as many as 100 women. He said he would seek out sex workers in their late teens and early 20s in Florida, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Baltimore. He drugged them, would take them to remote locations, bind them, torture them, stab them, and then either strangle or otherwise asphyxiate them. He would then take a trophy, as many serial killers do, and leave them abandoned in that same remote location. His First two murder convictions were for Mary Ann Carr, known as Marcy, and Valerie Ann Street. Marcy was an X-ray tech. She had the misfortune of living in the same apartment complex as Cottingham, and he abducted her from there. He took her to a Quality Inn where he tortured, raped, and killed her. He dumped her in the parking lot. In Valerie's case, he took her to that same hotel, checking in with an alias. He dumped her in the room by stuffing her under the bed, where she was found by housekeeping. He left her handcuffs on, and with those, he left behind a fingerprint. In 1984, he would be convicted of 3 more murders, this time in New York. Dide Gudarzi and Manhattan Jane Doe were found inside a Travelodge Motor Inn room which had been set on fire. They had been tortured before their deaths and attempted immolation. Cottingham took their heads and hands, making it difficult to identify the second woman. Gudarzi had given up a baby girl for adoption, who, as Jennifer Vise, many years later would befriend Cottingham in a search for answers and in an attempt to keep him talking so that other families could get answers for the things that he had done. In May 1980, Mary Ann Jean Renier was found at the Seville Hotel. Cottingham had removed her breasts and left them on the headboard of the bed. He also tried to set her on fire. It is not easy to burn a human body, but Cottingham tried. But before we continue, if anyone knows anything about a missing woman who would have been somewhere between 16 and 24 in 1979, who was white and between 5'1" and 5'4" tall, light of skin, light of frame as well, at between maybe 100 to 110 pounds. She had a burgundy colored mohair sweater, size 38, black patent leather boots, size 8, Bonjour brand jeans, size 7 or 8, and a full black full-length coat. Please call the NYPD at the number you see below and quote case number 1565 /66 if you can help identify the Manhattan Jane Doe. Cottingham would deny that he was the killer for decades. He was insisting that he had been framed for the killings. But in 2009, he finally admitted the truth. A cold case investigator from Bergen County prosecutor's office began reviewing a number of cold cases from the 1960s and the 1970s. He believed Cottingham was likely responsible for some of those cases and began to interview him in 2003. In 2010, he would plead guilty to a 1967 murder and then begin confessing to 3 others in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Then in 2011, he confessed to a double homicide out of Montvale from 1974 and the 1967 murder of a 17-year-old girl. There was Mary Ann Della Sala, who was 17. She was abducted and killed after she left her shift at a ShopRite store in Hackensack. There was Nancy Sieva Vogel, who people call Bubby, a 29-year-old mother of 2 who was found dead in her vehicle in Ridgefield Park. She was abducted from a mall in Bergen County and strangled in a field. He was convicted of that murder. Then there was Jacqueline Leah, otherwise known as Jackie Harp, who was only 13 and on her way home from band practice. And Irene Blase, 18, who would be found in the Saddle River, strangled with the chain from her crucifix. She had been raped and killed. There was Denise Velasca, 15, who was on her way to meet friends in Westwood but never came home again. She was found in Saddlebrook. She was killed because Cottingham was dissatisfied after forcing the young girl to perform oral sex on him. The double murder involved Lorraine Marie Kelly, who was 16, and Mary Ann Pryor, who was 17, who were both going shopping at the Garden State Plaza in Paramus. Their remains were found in Montville, and they had been tortured, raped, and murdered. In 2022, he would confess to the 1970 murder of Lorraine McGraw and arraigned for the murder of Diane Cusick. In court, he would plead guilty to these and also to the murders of Marianne Hines, Laverne Moya, Sheila Hellman, and Maria Emerita Rosado Nieves. Diane was a 23-year-old dance teacher found in her vehicle outside the Green Acres Mall. Her daughter Darlene was only 3 when she died, and she waited 56 years for answers, calling police each year on her mother's death anniversary, hoping for any update they could provide. Lorraine was found in the woods in South Nyack, New York. She had been missing for 4 days when she was found, and she was involved in the sex trade. Mary was found near a creek in Rockville Center. She had been headed to a dance. Laverne was found nearby. Cottingham would claim that he had thrown Mary and Laverne off of the same bridge, and that is why they were found close together. Sheila was 33 and found in her home in North Woodmere, New York. She would be the only one to be found at home so far. Marita was 18 when she was found in Wantagh, New York, in a weedy area near a bus stop. She had been covered in plastic bags and wrapped in a blanket. Finally, he confessed to the murder of 15-year-old Lisa Thomas, but his confession has been rejected by authorities and the case is still open. On October 7th, 1974, Lisa left home to walk to the Nanuet Mall at about 3:30 p.m. She was planning to buy a blouse. Her body was found about 700 feet from her home by her father the following morning. It was just behind the mall, demonstrating how short that walk would have been. She was not sexually assaulted. She had been blindfolded with a dark red rag she had in her purse, and she died from blunt force trauma injuries to her head. If you know anything at all about what happened to Lisa, please call the Clarkstown Police Department at the number you see on your screen. Unfortunately, Lisa's mother and father have both passed away before they could get answers in this case. But it's still open, police are still investigating, and Lisa deserves justice. His official death tally is 16 so far, but authorities believe it is significantly higher and that Cottingham may just be one of America's most prolific serial killers. Given his failing health and his age, we may never have a full picture of the carnage that is left in his wake. But it's important that we try. Thank you for listening. Until next Saturday. Have a great week. If you're enjoying these videos and want more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.